Welcome everybody. Today we're taking a look at the fifth film in Jackie Chan's Breakout Hits box set from our video. Like all the other films in this box set, it is in 4K and it is 1997's Mr. Nice Guy. So this is directed by Sammo Hung, who as an actor I've seen 32 other films from, but as a director I've seen 10 other films from him, and favourites would be the likes of Eastern Condors and Dragons Forever, and he actually has a cameo appearance in this as a bicyclist. Or someone riding a bicycle, I guess you could say, or a cyclist, that's that word. And he actually gets one of the best laughs in this film. So this is an action comedy, and it clocks in it, depending on which version you watch, 97, 96 or 88 minutes long. And alongside the main man, Jackie Chan himself, we've got the likes of Richard Norton, who was also in the likes of Magic Crystal, both of the China O'Brien films alongside Cynthia Rothrock, and Mad Max Fury Road. So a Chinese chef accidentally gets involved with a news reporter who films a drug bust that went awry, and now he's being chased by gangs who are trying to get the videotape. So despite this not being quite a top tier Jackie Chan effort, particularly from the 90s, as there have been a couple more hit in this box set that I have enjoyed perhaps a little bit more, it does nonetheless still manage to be an entertaining and funny effort for the majority of its running time, while Chan is as great as ever. The action scenes and stunts are also superb. It is well paced, has solid production value. The plot is predominantly engrossing, despite ultimately being quite a basic effort in that regard. There are plenty of laughs throughout. The supporting cast is decent. It is well shot, and as a fan of property destruction in film, this takes that to a whole nother level with the way that this concludes, which is still one of the most memorable action set pieces from the decade, and it involves a whole truck, or one of the big dumper trucks that are used in mining, basically being driven through a wall, over several cars, and then through an entire building in just the most spectacular fashion possible, with glass flying everywhere, dust particles, sparks, explosions, and yeah, the whole building ends up falling down in a massive fireball. And yeah, it's just highly impressive. Now, yeah, I know it's full well going to be a building that is made just for that purpose. It's not one that they've found and destroyed themselves, because you can tell at one point when the outer wall, for instance, that is driven through is completely crushed, that it is quite clearly plywood. But it is still nonetheless impressive to be driving a vehicle of that type through a building like that. And yeah, it is just spectacular. So yeah, it is overall a film that gets a 3.5 out of 5. I could probably bump it up to a 4 out of 5, but I'm going to stick with 3.5 overall, because like I said, the plot is a little bit on the basic side, and even though the cast are decent, there is no one there that is really a standout in comparison to Jackie Chan himself. But yeah, we do get 3 versions of this release here, all of which are on their own on a 4K disc. So on disc 1 we have the Japanese and Hong Kong cuts, and on the second disc we have the international cut. The international cut is the shortest of the 3 at 88 minutes long, although between the Japanese cut and the Hong Kong cut there's only a minute, and the only main difference between those 2 cuts is a dinner scene, so that's why there's barely a minute between them. So yeah, there's no real reason to watch the Japanese one over the Hong Kong one, to be honest, outside of just wanting to see that little bit of extra footage, but it's nothing remarkable, so there's no real major point to do so. But nonetheless, on disc 1 with both of those cuts, you've got original lossless English DTS HD MA 5.1 surround and lossless stereo audio for both of the cuts, so you've got 2 audio options for 2 of the versions there, and optional English subtitles for the deaf and hard of hearing. Brand new commentary by critic James Mudge. Breakout Part 5, a new featurette in which stuntman Mars and critics David West and James Mudge look back at the film. Nice thoughts, a new appreciation by martial arts cinema expert Frank Yang. Alternate English credits, Texas outtakes, original trailer, and image gallery. And then on the second disc, alongside the international cut, you've got original lossless English DTS HD MA 5.1 surround and lossless stereo audio, and optional subtitles for the deaf and hard of hearing, as well as the US trailer. So no major extras on that second disc, but quite frankly, the Hong Kong or Japanese cut is probably the better one to go for. And as per usual, this handy booklet talks about the differences between the films. So this is the first Jackie Chan. This was the first Jackie Chan film in over a decade conceived primarily for the international market and filmed predominantly in the English language, except for a handful of scenes featuring Mandarin and Cantonese dialogue. Mr. Nice Guy exists in no less than 3 different versions, as we talked here already. So the difference between the Japanese and Hong Kong cuts is by Golden Harvest is very slight. However, a short dinner table scene reinstated the Japanese cut but omitted for the Hong Kong cut. No idea why that was omitted at all, or why the Japanese cut wanted that part in at all. Not really sure, but they're identical aside from that, and both cuts are presented here via seamless branching with stereo and 5.1 versions of the same sync sound audio on both. Nonetheless, again, New Line Cinema, in their ultimate wisdom, decided to re-edit and rescore the film again, trimming around 10 minutes of footage, mainly toning down some of the more grim violence from the longer cut, as there is someone in here in this film that gets buried alive at one point, for instance. And again, hiring J. Peter Robinson to record new music. This time, however, the sync sound dialogue remains the same across all three versions. So, yeah, they've just cut a little bit of footage here and there, but ultimately, I'd say the Hong Kong cut is the one to go for. It doesn't have that, quite frankly, unnecessary dinner table scene, but also it has crucially omitted parts of the film that are necessary. Because even though there are those elements that are kind of grim and don't quite work perhaps with some of the comedy, they ultimately are there to make the villain as, evil as he needs to be to make you want him to be taken down. So, yeah, they do nonetheless provide a necessary part to the film. So, yeah, there is that. And then obviously we've also got the original poster artwork as well, which features that massive mining haul truck on the poster as well. So yeah, it's a truly spectacular scene, that end bit, but there are plenty of other great action scenes throughout as well, particularly the hand-to-hand combat. There's a particularly great scene with where they're walking over this narrow beam between two buildings, and I believe a grenade is thrown and then explodes inside the building itself by an opposing gang, because there were basically two gangs trying to get hold of this videotape. And yeah, massive explosion erupts through the building's windows, goes like that, which is one of my favorite kind of explosions, really. The film Backdraft also did an excellent version of that. So yeah, overall a really, really fun film. There's no real major issues with it. I just wish it had a little bit of a less basic plot, and yeah, a slightly better supporting cast, basically. So yeah, but that's it really. But nonetheless, if you have seen Mr. Nice Guy before, I'd like to hear your thoughts on it. But thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.